This is the Wild West, and I'm Emmett Shalor. If you like underdog stories that'll make you cheer and feel all good on the inside, shootouts that look like they belong more in Red Dead Redemption than on the gridiron, and most importantly, games that go down to the wire, the Big 12 is the place to be, and for the next 5 months, we're going to be locked in on America's football conference. Week 1 was nothing short of eventful. From K-State being down by 4 to an FCS school with less than 2 minutes in the game, to TCU showing Bill Belichick and his son that shit ain't sweet over here in the Big 12. All 16 teams in their games in about 20 minutes. Leave a like and a sub if you love the Big 12, grab a snack and enjoy. I really didn't know what to expect when coming into this UT Martin vs Oklahoma State football game. A lot of preseason Big 12 predictions had Oklahoma State finishing as a bottom of the conference type of team, but knowing this program, I wanted to keep an open mind coming into this Week 1 matchup. And on the first drive of this football game, the Pokes did their thing. Their quarterback Haas Haynes, who I thought was baby Gronk for a second, delivered a nice strike to open the game up, and even ran it in for a touchdown to go up 7-0. Man, Haas was looking nice in the first quarter. I wasn't on beat about him coming into this season, but the Pokes might have found themselves a dude. He was making plays all over the field, tossing bombs while also showing off that white boy speed. White boy speed hits different every time. UT Martin only scored 1 touchdown all game, so they won't be getting any screen time like Neji, but that 1 touchdown they did manage to score was pretty flames. Trick plays executed to perfection are one of the most satisfying things to watch. The Pokes defense did their thing. I know they played against the NBA equivalent of the Brooklyn Nets, but they looked good holding the Skyhawks under 225 yards of total offense. From what I saw and watched, it appeared the D-line had some push to them. They were in the backfield making plays in the quarterback's face all game. Some college football fans might be thinking, wow, another unimpressive win to start the season for Oklahoma State. But to be real, that's kind of on brand for the Pokes. Even in some of their best seasons in recent program history, for example back in 2021, when Oklahoma State would go 12-2 winning the Fiesta Bowl against Notre Dame, finishing the season ranked 9th in the country, they played Missouri State and Tulsa to open up the year and only won by 1 score, not scoring more than 28 points in both of those games. So don't worry too much about only winning 27-7 against UT Martin. Y'all should be more worried about Haas Haynes' injury. I really hope it's nothing too serious and he's back on the field, because watching him play in the little action he got, dude's a stud, and I would like to see him shine this year. Also, no offense to backup quarterback Zane Flores, but the offense was not moving like it should have when he was the man under center. I'm chalking that up to him being a backup, so hopefully in the Pokes next game, the offense plays better and executes a lot more. Oklahoma State survived Week 1. Could Houston? Well, luckily for them, they were hosting the Lumberjacks. That school name tells you all you need to know about the level of competition we're dealing with to start this video off. The Cougars would start the game flying on defense, and pretty much keeping up that same level of intensity for the entire football game, holding the Lumberjacks to only 144 yards of total offense as well as forcing 2 turnovers. I know Stephen F. Austin isn't some blue blood football team, but it's never a bad thing to have your defense pitch a shutout like Hunter Brown. Now for the offense, it wasn't the best Week 1 performance I've ever seen, but they did their thing. It took them a couple of drives to really get things going, but on about their 3rd drive of the football game, after getting excellent field position from a nice return, the Cougars would drive the ball down the field, scoring their first T-Diddy pause of the college football season. The transfer portal is such a beautiful thing. Props to Houston for picking up quarterback Connor Wagner. He never really made any noise at Texas A&M. It's nice seeing him at another school trying to keep his dream alive. He looked really good in this game. I wish they would have let him cook just a bit more, as he would only finish this game throwing for 159 yards, but he did manage to turn that into 3 touchdowns. There was this absolute missile that he threw for a touchdown in the middle of the 3rd quarter that made me get out of my seat a little. It was a tight window throw, nothing to overreact about, but it's a good sign for Houston fans. Wagner also was getting jiggy with the ball on the ground, rushing for 39 yards. I really didn't know bro had that in his bag. It's only Week 1, so I didn't expect the Cougars to go crazy on their play calling. They showed they can move the ball downfield when they wanted to. Solid 27-0 win to open up the season. Man, what happened to UCF? About 5 or 6 years ago, they were one of the premier Group of 5 college football programs in the entire country, and now they're playing in games where the score is tied 3-3 going into the 4th quarter. The spread for this game was about 20, and the Knights only ended up winning by a single score. Zeus must have been looking out for the UCF faithful, because he tried his best to delay this game with thunderstorms and showers. He had some shit to do around 9 though, so he couldn't save the Knights forever, and it shows because when play resumed, UCF would do everything in their power to not win this game. Not finishing drives, settling for field goals instead of touchdowns, and just not executing. UCF should have at least won this game by 2 or more scores, but to give credit where credit is due, the Knights did manage to start looking like a Big 12 team in the 4th quarter, really opening things up with the passing game. With all that being said, Jacksonville State still had a chance to tie the game late, but the Knights defense would stand tall, picking the Gamecocks off to secure the win 17-10. Not a pretty win at all, but a win is a win. UCF fans, how do y'all feel about Scott Frost's game management in his first game back in Disney World? Let me know down below in the comments. I had 2 questions coming into this Nebraska-Cincinnati football game. 1, could the Cornhuskers close the close game out? And 2, how would Scott Satterfield's Bearcats look in his 3rd season coaching the program? Oh yeah, I lied, there was a 3rd question I had, and that was if Patrick Mahomes would stay the entire game or leave before it was over. Nebraska was definitely the better football team for the entire first half. I've been seeing a lot of hate for the Nebraska quarterback Dylan Raiola, but he played some good football from what I saw, passing for 243 yards with 2 touchdowns. The Cornhuskers were moving the pill, putting together long drives behind the legs of running back Emmett Johnson. He was making things shake all first half. while on the flip, I had no clue what the Bearcats offense was doing. They couldn't get anything going on that side of the ball. I was ready to pat Matt Rhule on his back because his squad was doing everything they were supposed to do, going into halftime holding on to the 13-3 lead. And then it started happening again. Cincinnati Bearcat quarterback Brendan Sorsby said, "Fuck it, I'm going to take this game over with my own hands, or his own legs," and started to put his head down and take off with the rock every chance he got. And it worked as he and the rest of the Bearcats O-line would march into the end zone to make this game competitive again. With the score being 13-10, how Nebraska responded on their next drive would tell us all we need to know about this 2025 Cornhusker football team. And credit to them, they would make their way downfield, not looking fazed whatsoever by the pressure, ending a 13-play, 67-yard drive with a passing touchdown on 4th and 2. Now the game was nowhere near over after that, as Cincinnati would respond with their own long touchdown drive, putting the score at Nebraska 20, Cincinnati 17. The Bearcats would get a huge stop, getting the ball back with the whole field in front of them, and a chance to tie or win this football game. Brendan Sorsby looked excellent on this drive, except for the final play when he would toss an interception on a ball that I feel like his wide receiver just gave up on, giving Nebraska the W. Good thing Mahomes left early, he didn't miss out on too much. Cincinnati suffered the first loss in week 1 out of all the Big 12 teams. It's all good though, it's not the end of the world, plenty of season left to play. Let's move over to one of the 2 primetime football games from Friday night, starting with Colorado vs Georgia Tech. The Yellow Jackets looked sloppier than me after a couple of henny shots. Luckily for them though, they were never too far away from a restroom, as Coach Prime had one on the sideline, turning the ball over not 1 time, not 2 times, but 3 times in a row. All of this happened before the first quarter was over, and the most Colorado did with those gifts wrapped in pigskin was turn it into only 7 points. Georgia Tech would settle down, doing what they did best as a college football program, which is traverse the earth by foot, running the rock down the Buffs' gut. Haynes King was a World War II soldier this game, living in the trenches. He was really taking over this game with his legs, giving his school the edge in the first half to go into halftime up 13-10 on Colorado. Quarterback Caden Salter really settled into the game after halftime, as he would come out and start moving the rock, taking the Buffs down the field for 3 and a touchdown early into the 4th quarter. The offense was great, but the defense, they had their moments. Georgia Tech would keep forcing the issue with the running game. Colorado's defense just wasn't prepared for the physicality of this O-line that Georgia Tech played with, and it really showed. And even with saying all of that, the score would be deadlocked at 20 with less than 8 minutes left in the ball game. Both teams would get drives and a chance to take full control of this ball game, but neither team wanted it. Georgia Tech would get the ball back after a quick stop on Colorado and do what they did all game long: run. Game MVP Haynes King would call the game with a 45-yard rushing touchdown to secure the win for the Yellow Jackets 27-20. Colorado had plenty of chances to win this game but didn't capitalize, making the Big 12 0-1 in these 2 primetime games. Before we jump into the next primetime game from the Big 12 on Friday, let's make our way over to Lawrence and take a look at the Kansas Jayhawks matchup with Wagner. First things first, shout out to the Jayhawks for being the first team of the 2025 college football season to 2 wins. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. Anyway, there isn't really too much to speak of from this football game. Kansas did what they were supposed to do, winning extremely easily over the Seahawks 46-7. The offense was lights out, totaling 631 yards of offense. Quarterback Jason Daniels looked great, tossing 4 tuds. I really hope he can stay healthy all season, because with him running the show, this Jayhawks offense looks really scary. Say what you want, I know they haven't played anyone yet, although Fresno State was expected to be a top of the Mountain West type of team, so that's kind of a good win. But plenty of Big 12 teams so far in week 1 haven't looked too good against lesser competition, so it's never a bad thing to have your offense rolling over your early season opponents. I can't wait to see Kansas match up against some real competition. That game on the 6 versus Missouri should tell us all we need to know. Regardless, Kansas is 2-0 and looking like one of the teams to beat in the Big 12. To wrap up our final Friday night Big 12 game, we rotate over to another primetime matchup, Baylor vs Auburn. Coming into this game, I had no clue what we were going to get from Auburn. I really didn't think they would come out the way they did rushing the football. Baylor had absolutely no answer for the rushing attack, as the Tigers would rush for 308 yards, with quarterback Jackson Arnold leading the pack, rushing for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm not going to say Auburn found their guy, but man, he looked really impressive against Baylor. You know, I knew Baylor was going to be in for a long game after Auburn's second drive, but every time I thought to myself they're done for, Baylor's offense led by quarterback Sawyer Roberson would respond. Not right away, but they'd always respond before the Tigers could pull away. The Tigers were up like 17-3, and then Baylor would string together a 75-yard drive in 2 minutes to make the game competitive going into halftime. That pretty much sums up this entire game. Baylor would have an impressive drive, moving the ball through the air, looking like they were going to claw their way back into the game, and then Auburn would respond by pounding the pill until it turned into dust. They'd run it for like 5 yards a couple of times and then boom, bust a long one. Rinse, wash, and repeat until they punched it into the end zone. Baylor tried really hard, but their defense just had no answer for the Tigers' ground game. I expected the Bears' defense to be a little more stout. I kept hearing about how much of a genius Dave Aranda is when it comes to calling a defense, and that just wasn't the case in their game versus Auburn. Hey, it's not the end of the world. Baylor might have gotten exposed against Auburn, well at least their run defense did, but they can still win the Big 12, and even though they lost, I give them props for playing against a pretty good football team to open up the season. Moving over to the Saturday games, I know Nick Saban had to be pissed with how Bama played against Florida State, but we're only covering Big 12 teams, and speaking of Nick Saban, let's see how West Virginia did in their first game of the season against Robert Morris. This game was completely dominated by the Mountaineers. They would win easily 45-3, which is to be expected. I'm not too sure if I want to put in too much stock to what I'm about to say, but West Virginia was looking really loose with the rock to end the first half. I believe they fumbled it 3 times in a row. I might just chalk it up to week 1 football and the players being nervous, but they really need to fix that. In the Big 12, dumb turnovers will cost you games, and luckily for them, they were playing against the Colonials. The Mountaineers would only be up 10-3 going into halftime, but after some tough love from their head coach, I know he had to be pissed. West Virginia would come out and look like a Big 12 football team, scoring 5 touchdowns on their final 8 drives of the football game. They would end the game with 625 yards of total offense and would also end the game with a fumble. Jeez, please work on those dumb fumbles or it's going to be a long season. Iowa State is probably the hottest team in the Big 12 right now. They opened up the 2025 college football season taking down the 17th ranked K-State Wildcats 24-21 and would continue their winning ways back in Ames. The Cyclones look good, really good. I know they matched up against South Dakota, but I was impressed to say the least at how they started this football game. They would score points on every single drive to begin the first half. And it might be because I haven't watched too much Iowa State football over the years, but their quarterback Rocco Beck was looking nice in the pocket today, going 19 for 20, throwing for 278 yards with 3 touchdowns, just tossing straight heat seekers all game long. I wasn't aware the Cyclones could let the rock spin like that. Iowa State is going to be a problem this season. Not really much to speak of from this 55-7 win. The Cyclones came out and did what they were supposed to do. Right now, Kansas and Iowa State are my 2 teams to beat in the Big 12. Great win. We just covered Iowa State football game against South Dakota, so let's take a look at the team they took down last week, the Kansas State Wildcats, who were matching up versus North Dakota. I don't think I was the only one surprised by Kansas State performance against the Fighting Hawks. I know that coming back from Ireland, both K-State and Iowa State were going to have to deal with getting their bodies reacclimated, but there is no reason a top 17 football team in the Big 12 title game hopeful should be going back and forth with North Dakota. The Wildcats' offense wasn't really the problem, as they were able to piece together scoring drives whenever they wanted, well, at least until the fourth quarter. Things would get a little sketchy in the fourth, but we're not there yet. The problem was North Dakota was marching down the field on this K-State defense looking like the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles in those Kelly green uniforms, hanging 21 on them in the first half to go up into halftime on the Wildcats 21-17. Kansas State fans, I need to know, how are y'all feeling in real time watching this game? Comment down below. Chris Klieman had to have gotten on his team's ass during halftime, because credit to K-State, they would come out of the locker room and finally start to look like the better football team, scoring on back-to-back touchdown drives to take a 10-point lead. At this point, I thought the Wildcats had settled down. They even got a 3-and-out on the following drive. On defense, things were looking good, but I couldn't have been more wrong. K-State, what the fuck are we doing? How do you let North Dakota convert on a 4th and 6 when you have a chance to ice the game, and then right after that, there's a busted coverage on defense for a wide open touchdown throw? Hold on, it gets worse. It gets way worse. Then after allowing the Fighting Hawks to bring the game within a score, you go 3-and-out on offense, giving the ball right back to North Dakota. Where guess what? Your defense lets them drive the ball down the field and score again on a 20-yard rushing touchdown to take the lead 35-31. Yes, K-State was down to the Fighting Hawks with less than 4 minutes in the football game. K-State, you were really lucky. Once they got the ball back, they turned it over on downs with about 2 minutes and 5 seconds left on the clock. If North Dakota State would have gotten 1 first down, the Wildcats would be 0-2 right now. But Bill Snyder was watching over K-State in this game, because they'd get the 3-and-out and the ball back with 1 timeout and about $1.50 left on the clock. Shout out to quarterback Avery Johnson, because he really locked in for this 2-minute drill, getting his team down the field in 10 plays, going 80 yards, finding Joe Jackson in the end zone for the game-winning touchdown to give K-State the 35-31 win. This game was scary if you're a diehard K-State fan, but at least you won and still have your whole season in front of you. Be better. That last game was ugly and put a nasty taste in my mouth. So let's rotate over to one of the most dominant performances from one of the Big 12 schools over the weekend, which takes us to Utah for BYU vs Portland State. Really quick, shout out to one of my subscribers, Frosted Mini Wheatons. He won the last giveaway I did and asked for a BYU football helmet, so shout out to you, bro. If you're watching this section's for you. Alright, so BYU vs the Vikings was obviously all Cougars as they would win 69-0. Nice. The defense was outstanding, holding the opposition only 53 total yards. I don't care what level of competition you're playing, only allowing 53 yards on defense is something to be proud of and build off of. Now, while I say all that, there is one bad thing, well not really, that comes from playing this good on the defensive side of the ball, and that is the fact that the Cougars were starting with excellent field position all game long. So we really didn't get to see them on long drives too much, but credit to them because BYU would score points on every single one of their drives except the first one. Running back LJ Martin looked outstanding in this game even with his limited touches, rushing for 131 yards. The Cougars would total 468 yards of rushing this game, with just about everyone on the team getting the chance to run the rock. I really wish I could have seen more of quarterback Bear Bachmeier. He only threw 11 passes for 97 yards, but he did add 3 touchdowns to his stat line. It's the first game. I know they were not going to let him sling it like it's a big-time Big 12 game, but I would have loved to see him throw it a couple more times. Overall, good performance and a solid win for the BYU Cougars. Keeping the trend of teams that play football in Utah going, let's take a look at the Utes vs UCLA Bruins game. Y'all want to know something that I find hilarious? I was looking at some of the comments from the Utah vs UCLA highlights, and legit most of the top comments are just Tennessee fans shitting on Nico. Man, we all knew the whole world was going to be tuned in to see how he did running the show with the Bruins, so he better have played a good game or the internet was going to be all over his ass. Pause. Utah came out looking nuts. Their new starting QB, Devin Dampier, was making plays all over the field. It's really weird seeing a guy under center for the Utes not named Cam Rising, but I don't think the Utah fans are complaining at all. That first drive of the football game for Utah definitely set the tone for the rest of this late night matchup. Utah would go up 21-0, just looking lights out on their first 3 drives of the football game, all resulting in touchdowns. I know at this point it's low-hanging fruit to clown on Nico, but to be fair, he had a couple of decent drives, showing his ability to scramble and hit the targets. But that's pretty much where the compliments come to a complete stop. After halftime, Utah would completely take over the football game. I can't understate how good they looked. They made UCLA look like an FCS school with how they were just working on things during the game, treating it like a scrimmage. Excellent 43-10 win for the Utes. Swagging over to one of the teams I'm super excited to see how they pan out this year, the Texas Tech Red Raiders in their first game versus Arkansas Pine Bluff. I think Texas Tech did everything they set out to do in their first game of the 2025 college football season. The offense looked great, totaling 608 yards. Quarterback Baron Morton would go 16 of 20 for 201 yards and 4 touchdowns. He did take a big shot in the second quarter, I believe so. I hope it was just a stinger because he looked good and I want to see how he does against better competition. It shouldn't really shock anyone that this game was all Red Raiders. They would win in dominant fashion 67-7. They spent a lot of money on this roster, so I think the boosters were definitely happy with their performance in week 1. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, they would hold the Lions to under 176 yards of total offense, with the standout for me this game being that D-line. I need to see more, but that D-line looks like they could be wrecking havoc all season on the rest of the Big 12. We all knew Texas Tech was going to win this football game, the only question was how they would look doing it. And I think it's safe to say they looked pretty solid. Great way to open up the season for the Red Raiders. Somebody down in the comments, please let me know if I'm tripping, but I could have sworn Noah Fafita has been at Arizona for almost a decade now. I'm not complaining. I love watching the young man toss this pigskin around, especially when I get home from work on Saturday and the only games on are Big 12 After Dark games. Is that even what they're called anymore? Who cares? Anyway, we're all here for Arizona versus Hawaii, which I have to own up to something. So Arizona fans, not only did I take Hawaii to cover, I did like 2 more times after the game went on. Yeah, not my best day on the books. I should have learned my lesson after the first 5 minutes of the football game because the Wildcats would get a 3 and out, have a nice punt return, get the ball on offense and proceed to score within less than 2 minutes. Something that really stood out to me this game was this Arizona defense. They really made their impact felt all game long, holding the Rainbow Warriors offense to only 6 points, 293 yards and forcing 5 turnovers. You might see that 293 yards and be like, that's not too crazy. Well, when you consider that Hawaii already got some real game action a week ago against Stanford, a P4 school, so that's something to think about. The Arizona offense didn't have to do too much. Their defense made sure they had good field position all night long, and all they had to do was execute. And that's exactly what they do in this 40-6 win to open up the season. Great win, Arizona. Staying in Arizona, let's see how the Sun Devils did in their game versus Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. Arizona State started this football game looking like every bit of the preseason favorites to repeat as the Big 12 champions, picking up right where they left off last year, beginning the game scoring 2 touchdowns on their first 2 drives to really take control of this game. The Sam Levitt to Jordan Tyson connection was looking especially lethal in the first quarter. It seemed like the Sun Devils were going to do their thing, work on some plays, and have their backups in the game before they were halfway through the third quarter. Things are not always as they seem though, as Arizona State would go 3 and out on their next 3 possessions. While their offense would stall out for a little, their defense would make sure to keep the Lumberjacks from reaching the end zone. Peep how I said reaching the end zone, because Northern Arizona would put together 2 drives that would end in field goals. I'll say this right now, Arizona State definitely has a lot to work on when it comes to that side of the ball, because the Lumberjacks were not having too many problems moving the pill up and down the field. Better teams will turn those drives into 6. Another thing was that Arizona State had a lot of sloppy penalties this game. Dumb roughing the quarterback penalties, unnecessary roughness, etc. They committed 12 penalties that went for almost 93 yards. You cannot be doing that when you get into Big 12 play. But even with saying all that, Arizona State would still be up 17-6 going into halftime. Things would pick up a bit for the Sun Devils after halftime. Quarterback Sam Levitt would really take this game into his own hands, rushing for 2 touchdowns and throwing 1 as well, all in the second half. Arizona State is going to have some dudes step up this season because Sam Levitt is going to need his guys to show up if this team wants to go far this season. Far from a great 38-19 win to begin the season for 11th ranked Arizona State, but they did begin last season a little sloppy too. That's definitely cope, but just be better, Arizona State. I and a lot of other college football fans are expecting big things from y'all. Tighten up. Welcome to college football, Bill Belichick. You probably thought shit was sweet matching up against the Big 12 school to begin your coaching career at North Carolina. It's not sweet, Bill. TCU versus North Carolina was interesting to say the least. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't falling for the hype after the Tar Heels' first drive of the game. I legit called up some family who I talk ball with and was like, yo, North Carolina might be serious this year. What about Bill Belichick, huh? Yeah, that didn't last for too long. TCU took that opening gut punch and responded by systematically destroying the Tar Heels in every part of the game for 3 hours straight. Their quarterback Josh Hoover was lights out, throwing for 284 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a really nice connection in this game with wide receiver Jordan Dwyer, who'd catch 9 passes for 136 yards and a touchdown. North Carolina put a lot of their attention on stopping Eric McAllister, and the Horned Frogs adjusted by finding other options. Something that was so funny was that ESPN was glazing the fuck out of Bill Belichick for like the first 10 minutes of the football game, and as the game went on, they literally stopped showing Bill and was giving Sonny Dykes all of the airtime. Shit really got that bad. There was all this talk about Bill Belichick after the game, but somebody needs to get on Bill's son because he got outclassed on the gridiron. Back to TCU, their defense was also on point this game. After that opening drive where they got lit up, they would settle back down and impose their will like it was Conqueror's hockey all over the North Carolina offense, forcing 3 turnovers, 2 of which resulted in touchdowns. The Tar Heels couldn't get anything going until the game was pretty much all but over, totaling a measly 222 yards, while on the flip side, TCU would go off for 542 yards, converting 7 out of 12 third downs, as well as winning the time of possession battle. I don't want to jump the gun, but I am a YouTuber, so it's kind of my job to do that. But TCU looked excellent in this 48-14 ass whooping against the North Carolina Tar Heels, and it might be the best win of week 1 for the Big 12 schools. All in all, week 1 was an excellent week for the Big 12. Some teams showed out while others didn't, but right now every team is still in it and we still have a long way to go. If you like this video and like this recap, be sure to leave it a like and a sub, and make sure to tune in next week for week 2 in the Wild West.